I've noticed that a lot of people have issues working with zip files on Windows. The issue is no different on Linux, but with Linux, the problem is somewhat compounded because we have to work with these archives from the command line. There's a few ways that we can do that. I'll show you one way that we can work with them using the tar command. The tar command, it comes from the word tape archive. So back in the day, a lot of data was backed up to tape. Tape is actually still used today for backing up large amounts of data. Think about a big cassette tape, but instead of recording audio, you're recording zeros and ones representing all of your data. So even though we're not using tape on our systems today, the tar command still works. So tar is going to take a bunch of files, combine them into one chunk of data. Then we can use algorithms to compress that data. We're essentially removing repetition. So if there's a file that happens to have like 8 zeros in a row, the compression algorithms can notice that there's a whole bunch of zeros in a row, so it can like squeeze those out of the file. And when we restore the file, it'll put all that data back where it was before. So let's practice with this. Here we are in our machine. We're in our home directory. You can cd just to get back to that home directory. So let's make a directory called compress me. So I'll make dir compress me. And then I'll change directories to that directory. cd compress me. Now my working directory should be home. I'm in Ubuntu, compress me. We're going to create a couple of files. These are the files that we're going to end up putting into one archive. We can create them a couple of different ways. Just for practice, I'll touch one.txt just to create it. It's empty, but let's add some data to it. So I'll use nano to do that. Nano one.txt. This is my data. I'll Control O to write out, hit enter. I'll Control X to exit. That file should be good. I'll double check it once we've created everything. Let's create 2.txt another way. Echo, this goes into my second file. You could use one greater than just writes it out to that file, 2 greater than appends it because this file doesn't exist. Both would work in this case, 2.txt. We'll check that later. Now, expert mode, let's use vim 3.txt. So I've got to hit I to go into insert mode. This is my expert file because I used vim like a true hacker. Now again, to save it, I've got to hit escape to go into normal mode. Hit that colon character and I'll use WQ to write and quit. So now if I ls, I've got 3 files here. If I ls-l, I can see that their number of bytes, it's not 0. There's some text in here. And I can print these files out. So I can use cat 1.txt. This is my data. Because I know it's only one file or one line, I can type head 2.txt. That'll print out. That goes in my second file. Head shows the top number of lines, 10 by default. Because it's only got one, it's going to print out the whole contents. I can type tail 2.txt. Also, it's going to show me the exact same thing, but it's going to show me the bottom of the file, the last 10 lines. Because there's only one, shows me that one. I'll also be lazy, cat3.txt. There it is. Created like a true hacker. So I've got 3 files here. So if I want to email these files to somebody, or if I want to take a backup of these files, I might want to compress them first, put them into one file, email them off, or upload it to a backup, something like that. So we're going to use tar. And yeah, the syntax. Look at that lovely soup of options here. Tar ZCVF, the name of the file that we're going to create, and then what we want to add to it. So we're going to add all of the text files into a new file named myfiles.tar.gz. So what does the Z do? The Z is the compression algorithm. We're going to use the GZ for zip algorithm. The C means we're going to be creating it. The V is for verbose. It's going to show us what it's doing as it's doing it. And the F, whatever follows the F, is the name of the file we're going to work with. So we want to make sure that that F is the last in that line. Sometimes with these Linux commands, it doesn't matter what order you put these options. In this case, that F is important because whatever follows the F is the file name. So if I did F, Z, CF, myfiles.tar.gz, star.txt, this would not work for us. So let's go ahead and run that command. I'm going to type it out. tar-z c v f myfiles.tar.gz star.txt. Should work. I get the verbose output, so it showed me what it was adding as it was doing it. So good, right? ls, I see I've got a file there and it's in red. Red just means it's an archive. Like I zipped it up, so it's showing up in a different color here. If I hit the up arrow key, because I'm lazy, I get that tar command. I'm just going to modify a couple of things. Instead of ZCCF, I'm going to use a different algorithm. I'm going to use the J, which tells it to use a bzip2 algorithm. What's the difference? Well, bzip2 is just a little better technically. Can compress a little bit better. And I'm going to change the file name from GZ to BZ2. So it's the bzip2 format. But we're compressing the same files. Boop. Oh, goodness gracious. On this Linux system, apparently we don't have support for bzip2. That's okay. But we know how to install software, so let's give this a try. We'll do a sudo apt update. That's going to go out to the internet. It's going to fetch all of our repositories, and it's going to tell us what we need to do. Then we can do sudo apt install bzip2. But install, they use the English spelling of install with only 2 L's. So we add it. So that's totally fine. Okay, so now let's go back to that command. Now I can use that tar-jcvf myfiles.tar.bz2. So what does that show? It shows that we can add new compression algorithms. We can install them. We can add them to our system. That's totally fine. In the future, Ubuntu might come with this bzip2 installed by default. Many Linux systems do. But this cloud server was just installed with, a streamlined set by default. So all that's totally fine. We're good. Now if I list, I've got myfiles.tar.gz and myfiles.tar.bz2. I could email those to somebody else. They could extract them on their system. They could extract 1.txt, 3.txt, and 2.txt in alphabetical order. So that's good. So how do we test that this actually works? Well, we can delete all those text files. So I can rm star.txt. That's going to remove everything in this folder with the .txt extension. So if I list these now, I've got no text files. My text files are gone, but I still have them in my archive. So we're going to test extracting these archives. So let's do that with tar. We're going to tar-xvf. So we're extracting verbosely the file. So after that F, we've got myfiles.tar.gz. Hit enter. It spits out the file names as it's doing it. Great. So now if I ls, I've got my text files back, so I can verify cat1.txt, cat3.txt. This is my pro hacker file. So yeah, that's good. So with the tar, we can use that -x to extract. So I'm going to rm star.txt again. Can we get him out of the bz2 file? Let's try it. Notice that when we extract, we didn't have to tell it which algorithm to use. Tar just figured it out. So good job, tar. Tar xvf my files. If I use tab completion here, it's not going to complete the whole file. It's going to get to tar period. Why does it do that? Well, because it found a match, but there are two files that match something that starts with my files. So now it doesn't know if I want the gzip or the bz2. So if I type b, because I want the bz2 one now, and hit tab, there's only one match that continues with b. So I'm going to do that. And it works. So I'm going to cat3.txt, and yeah, it's back there. So I used Vim like a real hacker. So how do we use this in practice? Like very frequently, if you're configuring a server, you'll have to download something, then you'll have to extract something, then you might have to run a setup script. That's pretty common. So the PuTTY is a tool. It's available on Windows and Linux. So if I come to this download page, I've got the Unix source archive here. Let's grab that. But how do we grab it? So I've got my Linux computer over here. I've got no web browser there. Here, I've got a link to the download. I can right click on that link and just copy link address. That's what I want my Linux computer to download. But how do I download it without a web browser? Well, we can use a tool called wget. And then I'm just gonna, because I copied that download link, I'm gonna right click and paste as plain text. So there's the full command. Notice that it differs slightly from the instructions here just because software is updated all the time. So this is downloading for version 0.81 instead of the example here, which is 0.79. And yeah, that's gonna be common. So I'm gonna download that. Not too big, couple of megabytes. So now if I ls, I've got this file, putty.tar.gz. We can use the file program to investigate it. So I'm going to say file pu and hit tab. So it fills that file name in for me. And it tells me it's a gzip compressed data archive from Unix. And we don't really care what the modulo is, but it knows what it is. So fantastic. So we can extract it. So if we say tar-extract verbose file, putty, hit tab, it's extracting a whole lot of files here. So now if I ls, I've got a new file. Sorry, I got a new directory here called putty-081. So I can cd putty, hit tab. It knows I want to change directories, so it finds that directory for me. And I've got all those files there. What are we going to do with those files? Absolutely nothing. We're actually just going to delete them. But we could explore that. We see in here we've got a whole lot of stuff. We do have a readme file, all capital letters, so it's coming at the beginning. If you type less, R-E-A-D-M-E, all capital letters, this will throw you into a program that lets you scroll up and down in a text file. So like cat just throws everything out at once, head just shows you the top, tail just shows you the bottom. Less lets you go up and down and read. So how do you quit? Well, just like the manual, you press Q to quit. Here we can do Q to quit. Jumps us out of the less program. So you can try using less, you can use more. There's lots of stuff you can do to view these files. You can, once you're satisfied with that, we can clean up. We can come back. We don't need those files anymore. I'm in my current working directory is my home directory. You can just cd to get there. Let's just undo all of our hard work because we're just learning, we're just practicing. rm rf compress me, and all of that stuff is gone. Gone away for good. So there's lots of times when working with archives is important and useful, especially for installing stuff on a server. You might go out to GitHub to download some software. Then you might need to extract it. Then you might have to do something with the extracted files. All we did was kind of check out the README file in PuTTY, but it's a very common practice to download an archive, extract that archive, and then do something with those files afterwards.